welcome everybody to this episode. I have a very special guest for you today. I have Dara Tomasson with us, and she is an amazing life coach as well. I'm going to let her introduce herself, but today we're going to be talking a little bit about perfectionism, which is such a helpful thing to talk about, especially when you have chronic illness and life has kind of turned out maybe a little different than what you thought it was going to be. And you might have some of these tendencies where you kind of fall into perfectionism and don't really know how to get out of it. So, Dara, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself today?
All right. It's actually pronounced Dara, which
I'm the worst.
It's
I'm
fine.
so
It's totally
sorry.
fine. My husband says I dare you to say it wrong. So
It's cute.
I know he's really cute about that. Okay. So I'm Dara Tomasson, like you said, and I was an elementary school teacher turned professional quilter because I have 5 kids and at home I needed my own outlet. My husband worked shift work. And so I was with all these little kids and I was like, I need something. And I've been quilting since I was 19. So I decided I was just going to go all in on quilting. So I became a professional long arm quilter. I have 4 published books. And I traveled across Canada and the US and I would teach quilting and it was so much fun. But we got transferred to a place that I was really unhappy about and I gained all this weight and I could like Pollyanna my way through life.
Yes.
But at this point, my youngest son went to school. And so my identity was just completely taken from me. I felt, and so I had the quilting to fall on, but I was gaining all this weight and I was feeling really unhappy. And so I actually was able to find a life coach, kind of like your story.
Yes.
And in 2018, and it changed everything for me.
Mm-hmm.
I binge listened to Jody Moore, her podcast, and I had my own life coach. And I started losing all this weight without counting calories or tracking steps. And it was mental and physical weight. I had no idea how much mental weight was like literally holding me back. And so I've actually lost 50 pounds and kept it off without tracking any calories or any of that kind of stuff. And I've been able to keep it off with ease for the last 4 years. And so as I was learning these tools, these women who I was like helping them with their businesses, their quilting businesses and teaching and all of that, they would secretly come up to me and say, can you help me lose weight?
Wow.
And so I accidentally became a weight loss coach for quilters. Really. That was never my intention. But so just backing up just a minute. So when I was teaching quilting, so I did that for about 5 years and quilting professionally, and people would send me their quilts from all over. I always joked and said that I was the president of the Perfection Recovery Program. And inevitably, women would come to me and say, is that real? Because I need that. Yeah. And so I was able to, after coaching full time for over a year, I took a week off and I wrote the Perfection Recovery Program. And so now it's available in my program and I've self-published it. And so because it really did hold me back. And I didn't even understand what about perfectionism was the problem.
Oh.
So I'm going to just share a definition that changed everything for me. So when regular people, I'm going to say that just in the non-perfectionists out there, because really like perfectionism was kind of like a badge that we held, like we kind of wore and walked around like, I'm a perfectionist. Because anytime anyone would ask me to do anything, it was done 110%. Like I blew it out of the water. Like there was a dinner. Are you kidding me? Like the decorations, everything. I was exhausted, but I sure loved all the praise. So let me just take it. So when I heard this definition, I was like, oh, wait a minute. There's a different way and there's a better way. So non-perfectionists are someone who says, yeah, I'm going to do this thing. I'll do it. And then they try and then it doesn't work out how they thought. But they're like, oh, I thought I was going to be this way, but I guess I'm going to just do it this way. So they realize it's not a personal attack on them when they try to do something, but it didn't work out how they thought. And so when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, because when I do something, if it didn't go exactly how I thought, because really when we try something, it's always a guess, right?
Yeah.
Imagine like tying your shoes. You're like, You don't tie your shoes and be like, I'm the worst human ever because I didn't learn to tie my shoes the first time. Like we would never think that as 5-year-olds or 4-year-olds or however old you were when you tied shoes. But we're as adults, we have done that. We're like, we tried something new. We're like, oh, that would be a good idea. But it didn't work out the first go. And then we think we're the worst.
Yep.
Okay. So that is what perfectionism, that in a nutshell, was. It was such a great way of framing it for me because I realized I'm not giving myself the opportunity for real growth, and I'm punching myself in the face because I had one idea that I thought this might work. And then when it didn't, now I'm punching myself in the face.
Ooh, I feel like so many of my listeners are going to relate to that.
Right?
So,
good.
so tell me about some of the things that you have come up with that that have helped you with that.
Okay. So, and this you can, I have a quiz and I can even like put the quiz in your show notes.
Please.
Okay. So I have a self-diagnostic tool
My favorite
that I made up all by myself. Through, my life experiences and Google. Thank you, Google. So this, I'm just going to review them. There's actually 11 questions and I'm going to review them on the podcast because not everyone I know, you're not in a place where you can go and like click. So as I'm doing this, just in your brain. So 1, you're going to score yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being the lowest, meaning like, that's not me at all. And 10 being like, how does she know that's my brain? Like, how does she know me? Like, what is going on here? Like, what did she do? Okay. So that's the extremes. And then you can rate yourself in between. So, and then what happens in my quiz, and I have it online and it will like actually do the math for you. And then it will rate you into 3 different groups of people.
Oh, cool.
Okay. I know I'm just
very
so
high tech.
Cool. I know it's awesome. All right. So here are the questions. So number 1, actually not questions. I want you to think about this in your brain. So number 1 is there is no room for mistakes.
Oh.
So if you are someone that thinks there is no room for mistakes, that's a number 10. You are like extreme. That's me. If it's 1, not me at all. And then in between. Number 2, you have a very specific manner in which things should be done. I know. I think of my mom broom, like sweeping. There's like, we've had so many fights about sweeping, but her mom also had fights about sweeping and what kind of broom you should use and what technique. Anyways, okay. I but every time I do that, I'm like, okay. Number 3, you have an all or nothing approach. It's either you do everything well or you don't do it at all. Everything in between is a no-go. All right.
It's just so funny as you're reading these. I'm like, I've coached people in my programs on all of these things within the last week.
It's so awesome. Okay. Number 4, it's all about the end result. Okay. This is a huge one for weight loss. You don't care what happens in between or what it takes to achieve the goal. And think about all the women that exhaust themselves and do all the stupid diets and everything. You just want to ensure that the end result is attained. Otherwise you'd feel annoyed or devastated.
Ooh,
I know. Hard. I know. These are like number 5. You are extremely hard on yourself. It doesn't matter if it's due to your fault or just one small thing. You're always quick to beat yourself up and feel extremely bad about a mistake for a long, long while.
Yep.
So the other thing I want to just mention as I'm doing this is unless you take action, you are creating generational patterns.
Yes.
So your children are picking up on all of this. Your grandchildren are picking up on all of this. So unless you take action for yourself, this is just going to, it's like the generational curse, really. Number 6, you become depressed when you don't achieve your goals. You often mull over outcomes that don't turn out as envisioned. You keep wondering what if. That is going to take you to your grave. You're just going to keep exhausting yourself.
I know. I have clients that are like, oh, what if I would have just caught this earlier? What if?
Yeah. No.
Yep.
It's exhausting and it's like spending all of your brain juice on something that is not going to help you. Number 7, you have extremely high standards. At one point, you became held back by these standards as you procrastinate and stop working on the goals out of fear that you can't reach them. Number 8, success is never enough. Even when you achieve X, you wanted 2X. You're rarely content with status quo and you keep wanting to see more and better things. Number 9, You procrastinate just to do something at the right moment. You are constantly waiting for the right moment to work on your goals. And 10, you're constantly spot mistakes when others don't see any. While this can simply mean that you're just very detail oriented, perfectionists often spot mistakes, issues from a mile away. Sometimes they even seem self imagined. And 11, you often spend copious amounts of time just to perfect something. Okay. So
Woo,
I know we have a few
woo.
more minutes left, but this is what I want to say to all of the women that are listening to this podcast. You are not alone and you are not broken. Like I want to emphasize that. You are not broken. And you are just like learning how to tie a shoe. It's just a process and you just learn it and it's clumsy at first and then it becomes automatic. And I want to let you know that when you have this awareness, oh, I'm getting emotional for some
I
reason.
know.
But like when you have this awareness, you can totally change.
Mhm.
You can change it. And it really is a skill that you're just redirecting your brain. You're
Yes.
saying, it's okay, brain. This is what you used to do. And this is what we're going to do now. And before we didn't have meetings on Zoom, and now we have meetings on Zoom. Before we couldn't listen to these things online, and now we can. Like it's just a
Yes.
skill. It's just something that we're doing. And I want to just emphasize to all of you ladies that you are worth the effort.
Mm.
All right. So much love for all of you.
Oh my gosh. I think this is going to be so helpful for so many people, and especially people that experience chronic pain. I talked about neuroplastic pain in my last podcast. We have so many of these perfectionistic types of just ideals that like running through our minds that you don't even recognize until like somebody like Dara brings up. It's like, oh my gosh, I think all of those things. But you were the one, like you were in this scenario where all of these things societally, like generationally, were just unintentionally put into you and creating these results that you really don't like in your life.
Yeah.
But the first step is that awareness. And then like once you're able to even like take it out and kind of examine what it is that's giving me this result, like this
Mhm.
emotional or physical pain that is just not what I want in my life anymore, it's like, oh, I have this awareness. I, at some point, chose to agree with those things. I also have the power to start to change how I view those things
Yeah.
and how I relate to that. So, thank
And the
you.
last thing I wanted
Yes,
to
please,
share,
please.
yeah, just as this is something that has blown my clients' minds. Survival. Perfectionism was a form of survival,
Amen.
just like people pleasing and just like procrastination. Those were survival strategies. So when you can just give yourself so much mercy and grace,
Yes.
that will help you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so
And
much
I'm
for letting me share this.
Of course. Thank you. And I hope that we do more things together so that you guys can hear more from Dara. I will leave in the show notes how you can well, why don't you tell us right now
Yeah.
how we can hear more from you, and then I'll also leave that information in the show notes for my listeners.
Yeah. So my podcast is called Love Yourself Thin. And on my website, daratomasson.com. And I'm also on social media. I'm restarting my Instagram. It was like
Ooh.
taken away. So I'm like starting fresh. And it's Dara_Tomasson. And it's Tom Ass on. That's how you spell my name.
That's amazing.
I know.
So good. Well, everyone have a
Okay.
great week.